Hey everyone, this is Kim with Abundant Life Tarot, and I'm recording this on Juneteenth, June 19th, 2020. And gosh, I am feeling good. I took the kids out to a rally that was hosted actually by young people, like teens and maybe early adult at the oldest. And it was in a suburb that's like 45 minutes away, because traffic has definitely started to pick back up again in California. It's normally a solid 35-minute drive, but the traffic today added about 10 to 15 minutes. And actually it was because there was a severe accident that we drove past. So, but we get there and the kids, my youngest, Ella, she's 9. She'll kill me. She's 9. And she was like, okay. But I was happy because they were playing, they had people performing music, they ordered pizza, and they did this really cool thing, the young people, and it was from this resource center in a neighborhood that's maybe 15 to 20 minutes away from where I live. But where they had this event, it was like way far away from where we all were. So it was like, oh, I'm making a real trek to get here. But I'm so glad I did, because I could have gone to bigger rallies that are at the state capitol. Could have did that. But it felt right today to take my daughter to her first rally. It wasn't, I think by the time we got there, because with that touch of traffic, we got to the march, like it was like a small march, because we got there and they were already settling in for the speeches and stuff. I'm like, okay, that was fast. But it worked out because it's young people. I mean, very young people. That's why I'm like, maybe the young adults were more like people who used to be like kids that went to this resource center. I don't know, but it was very young. They were like younger than my son, who's 18. And I was just really proud of what they did. So I was glad. And it was good for my kids to see that. I took my 18-year-old son and I took my 9-year-old daughter, and it was just us, and we just sat up there with our mask. I took a picture of each of them. And I enjoyed it, and it felt good to be in solidarity with people who really are supportive of this movement, you know. So I'm very, very happy about that. And yeah, and I also was feeling really great about, this is Pride Month, so I was feeling like big-hearted, like, I got just so much like reverence and happiness for my peoples, okay? So, and that's all my peoples. I felt good. And then there was like the win for, you know, our LGBTQ. I always have to slow down, because sometimes I think I speak too fast in some spots, and sometimes I feel like I speak too slow because of my parents from being from the South. So I'm like, slow down. My LGBTQIA had, you know, folks, we had a success in court. Should have been something that happened. We know that. But that was a success in the Supreme Court this past week. I was very heartened by that, and like, okay, even with conservative justices on the bench, they can still see, okay, this is a fundamental right that everybody should have, you know. And so I was very happy about that. I was very pleased with that. I know with DACA, that there was a big movement there. With DACA, there's a lot of mixed feelings, because I grew up in Oakland, where a lot of my friends were brought from, you know, from Mexico to here when they were babies. So they don't even really speak Spanish. They might understand it because it's spoken in their house, but they don't really speak it at all. They even talk back to their parents in English. And not even because I'm there. It's like, no. They're very much American, and they pay a hefty fee apparently to stay here. It's like a tax, but not a tax, because they're not citizens, but it's way more than even what regular people would pay. And that's not really talked about. And my husband reminded me, like, yes, the DACA situation, where it's going to prevent this current president's administration from, you know, just sending these folks away and ending DACA. It was like, no, that's not going to happen. So there's still more work to be done there too. But with everything that's been going on with Black Lives and Black Lives Matter, and then just all the outpouring of support has been amazing. Overwhelming at times, because I'm the person who, like, if I see a message, I will start to get all affected and cry at times. Like, so if I haven't gotten to your comment yet, I probably had read it and I was like, I'm going to come back to them, I'm going to say something thoughtful, and then time has gone by, and then I'm like, oh gosh, I got to get back to them, because I thankfully have a filter set on my YouTube comments of ones I haven't responded to yet. So trust and believe that I am doing my best to get through them all. But thank you for the love and support. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. And yeah, I'm just really, really, really grateful. It's been scary. I mean, you hear things, you see things, you see how people are like a little bit still like, oh, well, I just don't worry about these things. Well, you know, it's nice that you don't get to worry about, you know, police brutality. It's nice that you get to turn off concern about being Black in America, but literally we are the minority. My whole life, I've very much felt how small that is. Like, when I was little, they put me in GATE programs, which is great because, you know, it stands for Gifted and Talented Education. At least out here in California, that's what they still have that today. It's a track that kids get on that's supposed to send them to a track for college, but of course I rebelled, and that's another story for another day. But so there wasn't many Black kids there. Okay, but I was in a neighborhood with a lot of Black kids when I was growing up in Oakland in the 80s, so. But then when I got to junior high and high school, because I was in GATE, it naturally made sense that I would be taking honors and advanced AP, advanced placement courses. So if you're not from the United States, folks, that's really college level courses that usually only whites or Asians were in those courses. So I'm spending all day in an environment where there's only maybe me and one other Black person, and maybe two, but then the one other is like literally from Africa, like from an African country, not even from my neighborhood. And so I felt small there. When I went into my professional job, my professional setting in the insurance industry, in the claims insurance industry, again, there was only a small number of people, and the reason why those people were there was because of affirmative action. There was a quota that companies and colleges were required at one point to maintain a certain number of Black people. I'm assuming all colors. I don't know. But I just know for sure Black people. So it was always funny that if there was one extra person in our team that was Black, so if we had two and then a third popped up, and this has happened when I worked for the insurance company, and someone will casually say, okay, who had the American name, or who had the name that got you through? And it's usually me, because my name is very, like, I've had like people, like customers say, that's a very Irish name you have. Okay, well, I'm sure the surname is coming from some slave master somewhere from Ireland. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. But it's funny to me. It's so whack and weird, and it's so crazy that I go crazy sometimes, you know. It's just like, whoa. So they did away with affirmative action, so now it's really minimal numbers. I've been working professionally for 20 years, so it's yeah, it's interesting. And then when you hear of like white supremacists going stone cold crazy and acting out, then it becomes even more like a volatile situation for a person who naturally is worrying all the time. because you just don't know. You don't know if the white person next to you is friendly or not. So it's been interesting. I love all the love and support. Thank you. And thank you for inspiring me to want to go out and do more and do better. You guys are amazing. Actually, this is starting to turn out to be my more safe spot. Not always, because I have to be cautious. We're, you know, it's okay. I'm glad people are speaking out and speaking forward, and it's just amazing. It makes me feel so good and not so alone. But there's always this part of me like, oh my goodness, what are we doing? What's happening? And that's natural and to be expected. I know. The cards said so too. But yeah, it's been interesting. It's been quite interesting. Actually, what I really wanted to talk to you guys about is this beautiful little ditty. The Light Seers Tarot by Chris Ann Donnelly. I just realized her box says A Journey of Shadows and Sunshine. And that's what this deck is about. You know, there was a lot of different criticisms around it. I did a couple of videos about the whole Ten of Swords issue. And I want to say this. I still am disappointed that she got rid of or took out the original Ten of Swords, which was this one. I'm still a little salty because I felt like everybody should experience this because they always get this. And I was like, this is so powerful. But let me tell you what shifted and changed over time since I last recorded those videos. I started thinking things through. And Chris Ann said something to the effect of, if one person is feeling icky, that's from a group that I, you know, may have depicted in this image, and then I can't have that. I can't have that. And she made a business decision. I realized, yeah, it was also, some of us were looking at it more as a creative First Amendment right issue, but she was, I think, looking at it from a human to human perspective. She didn't want to cause and inflict pain on anyone. And she did it from a business perspective. And in retrospect, I really respect that. I've softened my position. She, you know, I voiced loudly that I wanted her to keep this one. Loudly, I voiced and screamed, and because I wanted other people to see it. And when I saw this card, I still to this day did not think slave woman. You know what? It's so funny that people looked at it and saw that, and I didn't see that. I was thinking of human trafficking today because, like I said, because I wear head wraps, and I used to wear my head wrap in this way, and now I don't, because anyways, I just don't anymore. But I'm kind of lazy. But I just was like, whoa, I'm softening my position, because let me tell you why. When Chris Ann was creating this gorgeous deck, I watched. I was a backer. I backed this deck and the Muse Tarot at the same time. I just knew her projects were going to be beautiful. I just knew it. I knew I was going to love them. And yeah, I did. And at no time did I feel like when she was creating that particular card, when she showed it, did any of us take offense. And there was quite a few, like, people of color, indigenous people amongst us in the whole like folks who were supporting this deck. So I was shocked. I was surprised that people were so like seeing slave woman in it. I was just like, no, actually I didn't. For her to change her mind, it was amazing. There's a deck creator out there who shall remain nameless, who willfully creates oracle decks that have a very derogatory. It's these dolls, right? That have blackface. And I get all emotional when I think about it, but I'm calmer now about the whole subject matter. Because again, I still stand behind, I wouldn't buy that mess. That's what I stand behind. I wouldn't support it. But what I got angry about, what I got upset about, was being a minority in a particular Facebook group and seeing people defend him, going hard for this guy. And just because he says he's not racist doesn't mean that he's not racist. Shit, I could say I'm not racist. Doesn't mean that I don't have, some issues with that shadow work I need to work on with my own prejudices. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all have some things to work on in that regard if you're living in this country. And if you're living in this country, you would understand how awful it is to sell cards that have something that is painful to black people. It's just like when the Red Chiefs, that football team, I don't really watch football, it's not my thing, but it's just like, I remember being little and asking my mom, why were there so many protesters? What's about the Red Chiefs situation? What is that? Being a little girl and trying to understand that. My mom explained to me. And I got angry. I was like, why can't they just change the name? And it wasn't until 2016. I was like, I think I've talked about this in another video, and I'm not going to go off, but it just bothered me. It bothered me when I was a little girl, and it bothered me now. Like, what? Why do you have to take hella years to hear somebody's pain and saying it's offensive for you to say, you know what? Okay, I get it. I get it. And then you got people who are like, well, I don't see anything wrong with it. Really? Okay, well, fine. Now we know how you feel. So it's like, it just was really disheartening. And some of my favorite people who are people of color left after that whole exchange. They left. And I know why they left. Because I wanted to leave. But I'm a collector. And I'm like, well, I should stay in this group. And I better just stay in and deal with it. And because I have decks that I collect. But I don't know. And it had me feeling raw and sad. And then I think back to Chris Ann. I'm like, whoa, she's a class act. I always knew that. And I said it even in my last videos, but she's a class act. She did something that she really didn't have to do. And I'm blown away by that, So it's like the Barbie analogy. And what I mean by that is you have some crazy dolls that depict blackface, and maybe some Oriental dolls, which are offensive, right? And you had that back when, they were making mass-produced dolls back in maybe, who knows, the 20s, 30s, 40s. And people protest and they say, hey, no, this is really offensive. Could you really try to be a little more inclusive? And hey, could you not try to use that? And so Barbie comes on the scene and it's just all white faces, maybe red hair, maybe blonde, maybe black, but all white. But remember, we have the history of the old crazy looking dolls. And then you have us saying, please, we would love just some kind of, just one doll that kind of represents us. We're buying the dolls you got. But, and we've been playing and using our imagination for so long, pretending that we are in these dolls. But could you, please? So then, of course, black people, people of color, all people of color, not just black people, they start making dolls. But we're like, no, we're now so conditioned to looking at this standard of beauty that we don't know anything else. So we're not going to even bother with getting other people of color's dolls because we're so conditioned to this look. But meanwhile, Barbie, in their flawed ways, Barbie the corporation from Mattel, whatever. Mattel is the old toy company. I don't know if they're around now, but even in their flawed ways, they started to listen. I started to see my Barbie dolls that I collected, because I've been a collector, I realized my whole life, collecting everything. Stones and rocks, like literally rocks, dirt, little bits of rocks. It's no wonder I'm into crystal now. Barbie dolls, postcards. Anyways, I digress. The Barbies evolved. They moved from all white. Then I will never forget when the Christmas I got Nico. I think she was Japanese American, I think. And now I think that was her name, or the name I gave her. But they end up later on, I don't know, I think that was her name, one of the names they gave to their Barbie dolls. Anyways, I was so excited because I had a ton of imaginative play with my friends growing up. And we would all have these big old things where we bring all our Barbie dolls together and we play. And then my mom started bringing home black Barbie dolls. And then as I grew up and wasn't really into dolls anymore, and by that point, by the time I grew up, there was all of these different kinds of dolls. There was Latina, and there's all these different dolls. There's even like one from like a little Eskimo. They're from everywhere. Now, I hear they have different shapes and sizes. I haven't bought a Barbie doll in a long time. My daughter is not at all into dolls. She makes beautifully complex Lego sculptures. I think I told you guys that before. She's not into dolls. But I use the Barbie analogy to say this. It takes a long time sometimes to shift even the most flawed of situations. And to turn things around, both as me, the black woman, and as the white toy maker, or as the white deck creator, or and there's shifting that has to take place, that's taking place. And I'm grateful for that. I'm learning every day right along there with you guys. And it's intense. I know it is. And I'm thankful that you guys haven't given up. Are we going to always be talking about this? I don't know. Probably not. I mean, I'm going to continue because now this is something that's really urgent for me to still make sure that I see it through and support this cause. It's personal, very personal. So I will continue that work. But yeah, it should be talked about that deck creators, you should research. This is my bit of advice. Because I think where I got frustrated and angry was that I bet you that there were black people who was backing this particular deck creator, who shall remain nameless, and not realizing they didn't do their homework. They didn't do their research into this creator. And I bet you if they did, and if they knew, they probably wouldn't have backed it. They probably wouldn't have purchased the deck. You know, and I'm just saying, from here on out, let's do that. Let's check it out. If you're still okay with people's, you know, what they're saying in their social media, deck creators and artists and the like, if you find that you can deal with that, that's fine. But I'm personally just gonna, if I'm buying decks or anything really in the future, I'm gonna be researching and seeing where is my dollars going. I think that's important. I think that's huge. And so I know this is not going to be yet again another popular video in terms of topics, but I also wanted to let you guys know I did revisit the light seers situation in my mind, and I meditated on it. I sat with it, and I was angry at first. I wanted people to see this pain that this woman was getting over, that she was facing a new dawn. I wanted that, but you know, we have a class act among us with Chris-Ann. We do. Quality everything. Top of the line. Class act lady. So that's where I am now on the light seers. I just wanted to do a follow-up because people mention it still all the time. I'm really bummed about the Ten of Swords. And I invite you to just pause for a moment and think about it. Yeah, it sucks. It does, because I miss that for some of you. But it's still a fantastic deck without it. It's so fantastic. I have the mass market edition that I use with clients' face. When I was doing face-to-face readings, I would totally use that deck. I haven't been doing face-to-face readings, but I love it. I use it for client readings all the time. I use the indie version for readings for myself. Yeah, that's where I'm at on the gorgeous light seers. So that's it, guys. I did not want this to be a super long video, and of course it is, but there's a whole hodgepodge of stuff I wanted to talk about and get it out there. So I'm glad you hung in there. And remember, let your card slinging friends know if you're consuming something and buying decks, do your due diligence, do your research, find out who you are supporting, who you are giving your money to. I don't care if it's mass market or indie. Do your homework, because you might be surprised and you'll be grateful you saved the money now versus feeling icky about having to sell this kind of deck, with some weird energy to other people. I know I'm going to feel weird getting rid of this particular one I have in my collection. I'm like, great, because I'm not using it, and I know now why I'm not using it. There was something kind of weird with the energy, and now I know. It's funny how spirit works that way. All right, guys, chat with you later. Take good care of yourselves. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.